warm welcome to the Realty debate. Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Venkaiah Naidu, reviewed Smart Cities mission progress in Rajasthan recently. Rajasthan is among the 11 states in the country that is going ahead with 6 urban development missions. And smart city plans of Jaipur, Udaipur, Kota and Ajmer have been approved. Venkaiah Naidu in the recent past has reviewed development of projects in 18 states. So we also want to take a stock of Smart Cities mission, and we have a panel of esteemed guests with us. We have Shirish Sankhe, he is Director, McKinsey India. We have Pratap Padode, he is Founder, Director, Smart Cities Council India. We have Dr. Ishar Judge Ahluwalia, Chairperson, Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations. We also have with us Mousumi Roy, she's a Senior Director and Head Smart Cities Real Estate Urban Infrastructure FICCI. Now let's begin with you, Mr. Sankhe, because I was reading a report by McKinsey only, which was talking about investment requirement in urban infrastructure in India and the big huge gap that we see. Now keeping that in mind, first if you could tell us what exactly does India need in terms of investment in infrastructure, and how far are we lagging behind?
Yeah, this is something I have been speaking on for many years. Basically, India requires around $120 per capita per year in average spending. So on an overall basis, it's $1 trillion of capital investment and $1 trillion of operational expenses investment over the next 15 years. So from that perspective, there's a huge gap, because normally we spend something like 1/8 or 1/10 of this. That's why you will see that urban infrastructure is lagging enormously in India. So from that perspective, even a small drop is always welcome, and the Smart Cities mission, which focuses as a facilitator mechanism on getting our cities to a world-class level, is always a welcome step.
Yeah, but our concern is that this small drop shouldn't remain a small drop, it should create a bigger ripple. But Mrs. Roy, what is your take on the Smart Cities mission progress so far? Because I was reading that projects worth 500 crores have been completed. That's like, even if you look at the level of a city, that's hardly anything.
Well, I think this is the beginning. This is a 5-year mission, and there's a lot of work to be accomplished. So at least we have made the beginning, which is a very good thing. I think it's a big step, and it's a huge ambitious project which the government of India has announced. So once the beginning has been made, I'm sure that it's going to roll out well, and we have to keep the momentum going, and we have to keep the interest going from the private sector and everybody.
Okay, so let's bring you in also, Mr. Padode. What do you think? What is your take on the Smart Cities mission progress right now?
See, I think the whole logic was very, very compelling. We have got 30 people moving from rural India to urban India every minute, and so the fact that we had to bring this whole mission together now is very, very appropriately timed. I think so far they have maintained the timelines in terms of whether it be selection of cities, whether it be the appointment of consultants, whether it be placing the plans for approvals. So far I think things have moved along in these last 2 years pretty much on schedule, and I think we have nearly 57 cities which have set up SPVs. At least that's a good beginning in terms of getting the whole structure in place to execute because that is the next most important part of the whole plan, that is to execute these plans and take them to their fruition.
So a compelling logic, but does it make a compelling development story as well? Dr. Ahluwalia, what do you think? The nitty-gritties obviously are not very clear right now, but even if you look at with a bird's eye view, do you think Smart Cities mission is moving in the right direction right now and with the right pace?
Well, it is moving in the right direction, no doubt, but the challenges are not being properly understood. I think the expectations seem to be unrealistic. You know, what we are talking about are smart area projects, not smart city projects.
Yes.
So the government is planning to develop parts of cities through smart technology, and so far so good. I think that's very good. But you know, cities, in order to be smart, also have to be healthy. I personally feel that a lot of energy is being dissipated by having multiple missions and not enough convergence. We need healthy and smart cities. We need technology-driven infrastructure, but we need strong institutions that can actually bring about improvement in service delivery. For that, we have to wait and see how this mission progresses.
Mrs. Roy, what do you think? We have Amrut, earlier known as GNUR, and now we have Hriday, we have Swachh Bharat happening, we have Smart Cities mission happening, and as Dr. Ahluwalia is saying, there's lack of convergence. Is it? Is there a lack of convergence? Are they all moving together in the same direction?
Well, we know that the government of India is going to fund only 50,000 crores to the cities. The rest of the amount, which is an equal amount, has to be brought in by the cities themselves. And this fund is going to be brought in with the help of the other missions, which is they are going to converge into convergence will come from these missions. So this has definitely happened, and it's been also put in the smart city plans of various cities. So the convergence has definitely happened on paper, but yes, it needs to be seen how it gets rolled out in terms of projects and how the integration happens.
Okay, so Shirish, I want to direct my next question to you because I'm talking about funding here. We all know the states cannot depend on center for the funding because it's not there. It's that umbilical cord will be cut and you can't expect too much out of them. So how are these states going to get their own, cities to be more precise, going to get their own fund? Is municipal bond the only way, or are there other ways that government is exploring?
Before I answer the overall funding question, let me just talk quickly about the Smart Cities mission. Like the Smart City mission is a limited mission of 1,000 crore per city. Okay, most of the cities, if you look at their plans, have made a 2,000 crore plan over 5 years, right? And out of the 1,000 crore, 50% by the center, 25% by the state, and 25% by the municipality. So even in the Smart Cities mission, what we are finding is the top 3, 4, 5 cities in each state are actually able to fund their 25% portion. Okay. But many cities, for example in Solapur in Maharashtra, cannot even come up with the 25% portion of their own money just for the Smart Cities mission. So even in the Smart Cities mission, there is a haves and have-nots that is coming up, okay, which needs to be solved for, right? And that is only 1,000 crore type of funding, right? Now we go to the larger area of funding, and Mrs. Ahluwalia is there. You know what we had said that the overall amount is so large that it has to be in multiple areas we have to fund. So one of the key parts is actually giving 20% of the GST directly to the cities, which I don't know when it will happen, right? It was one of our key recommendations, Mrs. Ahluwalia, you remember, as a part of our overall funding plan. Then you go to the next level, there is land monetization, which many countries have done, I think which we are beginning to do. And then you go one level down, and that's where municipal bonds and so on come in, because municipal bonds have to be paid back, right? And therefore it depends on the city's ability to raise funds. So for us, share of GST, land monetization, user charges, and municipal bond is the hierarchy, okay, of funding. A difficult hierarchy, but can be made to work.
Okay. If I may say so, see, municipal bonds will come only if there is creditworthiness.
Yes.
If your municipalities are totally dependent on state governments for their revenue, and come an election and the state government can say house tax maaf ho jayega, so how do you expect that municipality to raise municipal bonds and get funding? So I think it's a very serious issue. Municipal finances are in tatters, and unless we fix that, we can't begin to address the challenges of urbanization.
That is a big question, though some cities are getting rated and they might be able to raise bonds, and some of them have started the process. Pune, I believe, is already doing that. But Ms. Pratap, not only funding, another big issue is the framework, the technical expertise. The government lacks it. Do you think the government will be able to execute such a massive program at such different levels at so many tiers?
So I think just I want to quickly refer to the financing part which you mentioned earlier, because part of the whole the reason why you can actually make this sustainable is only if you get public-private partnership going, which is the other, out of the 2,000 crores every city requires, the other 1,000 crores has to come out of PPP, and for which you need conceptualizing such kind of projects for which user charges will be charged and paid, and they would only pay if quality and service etc. is delivered. So that seems to be currently the biggest problem in terms of a conceptualization of that project itself the cities are facing. They need to be able to drive investors to actually take that risk of reaching a project to that point where such kind of service can be delivered, and because that's going to be a long-term sustainable solution, because only when you deliver services and you charge for it on a long-term basis would the city be successful, and that will create a credit history for that city for raising future finances for future projects, because these kind of projects will become showcase for a city's financial history. And coming to your question about whether this kind of I think this is probably it's an inspirational model. And in every city, if you are able to demonstrate in a smaller area that these kind of concepts and projects can be executed, that's why comparatively it should be taken as an easier move for the city to do, and obviously there are going to be some 20% who actually achieve this and 80% who are going to sort of struggle with it. We are looking at those 20% successes. If they can be like lighthouse projects which can demonstrate the success of such creation of such projects and such sustainability, then we can go forward, and there will be others which will find more innovative ways.
So someone will set up an example and others will follow. Mrs. Roy, you have something to add here.
Well, I think the cities are already facing this challenge of the technical part, which is the new projects that are being rolled out, which are IT enabled, which have the IT element in it, and the capacities of the local bodies are not there to able to understand and execute such large projects. So challenges are coming up on that front. But I think there needs to be a constant capacity building exercise for the cities to be able to adapt to these projects and to understand how they can maintain, sustain and roll out effectively. So while they execute these projects, I think the capacity building needs to happen on the site for them to remain updated on the various technicalities.
Dr. Ahluwalia, what do you think about this whole technical issue? Because we've seen our cities eventually fall down to the municipalities, and our municipal corporations are not capable of basic things. Sometimes you can't even pay your basic utility bills online. So do you think executing such massive funding exercises or implementing these smart city missions and smart city processes, would it be possible for them?
Well, capacity is a constraint, and the government of India and state governments have to work together to build capacity at the urban local government level. There is no question. But even more important than that, our cities are not empowered. They are actually not city governments. Pratap mentioned that user charges should cover costs. But for user charges to cover costs for a city project, the permission has to come from the state government. The ground reality is that in the last 15 years, if you look at urban infrastructure and urban service delivery in India, it's only a few states. It's Maharashtra, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, and maybe one or two other states where cities have delivered, because state governments both provided some financial devolution and held hands by providing an enabling environment for the cities to conceptualize, plan and deliver. And I think unless state governments come on board, Government of India can only give strategic direction. You will not see results on the ground.
So Shirish, what do you believe? Aren't state governments involved enough in this thing? Is a central government trying to act like a mothership and trying to control cities at municipal level? That's a little bit too much of control, isn't it?
See, I saw both sides of this story, okay. On one side, obviously the state government has a very important role to play. At the other side, I remember municipal commissioners staying awake till 12 midnight to finish the smart cities plan, okay, along with their consultants. We were involved in a couple of them, right? So that type of empowerment at the city level and the municipal commissioner really and the city really taking a responsibility was good to see. Obviously in India there is a lot of control still with the state government that will continue to happen. But what I have also seen is that there is again the haves and the have-nots in terms of capability, what Mrs. Roy was saying, right? There are many cities, especially the smaller municipalities, are having tough time in getting the PPP projects or the smart element tender or even the buses to run, and they are going in a way that doesn't really work, you know. So that the capability building or the capacity building point is quite important, right? And that needs to be taken care of for even this small mission to succeed. One other point I want to make is personally I am far more excited about the non-smart element of the mission. Okay, there is a smart element mission which I don't know whether many of you know is only 25% of the funding. The other 75% is what Pratap was talking about, the local area development, okay, which is livable, making a small 500 or 1000 acre area livable. Yeah. Parks, open spaces, roads, footpaths, the basics, right, which India actually lacks. If we get that local area development right, yes, okay, I think that could, as Pratap was saying, that could act as a catalyst, okay, for other areas to take inspiration from. Personally, I am far more excited about the non-smart part of the smart mission than the smart
I completely agree with you. Livable is a word that completely excites me also, and I think that is what we should focus on in when we are talking about cities. But Pratap, livable is something that we rarely see in India. In fact, I think citizens have lowered down their expectations so that, you know, cities feel livable to them. Do you feel that Smart Cities mission is going to, going to address that? And are we too focused on the smart points as what Shirish is saying here, that we are only concerned about everything being online, but we are not concerned about the ground realities?
See, I think if you leave Smart Cities mission for a minute and you think of the smart things that are happening in the country, right from Aadhaar, right from the LED rollout, right from the direct benefit transfers, right from the optic fiber network which is being laid out for 250,000 villages, I think that's in a totality it's a far bigger framework being created for actually this whole smartness to actually happen or get executed. So the framework is pretty massive. And it's these inspirational points where the smart cities are coming up. And I think if private developers find that consumers or buyers indeed pay a little premium for such services, you're going to find this proliferating across the city in no time. Because the finality is somebody willing to pay a little higher price for the kind of convenience and services that a smart city would offer. Whether, you know, where you have 24/7 water, electricity, lower society charges, etc. Now that's supposedly the better place to live, and therefore would you pay a little higher for it. So that it ultimately boils down to that. And I think we'll see many private, and I think there should be therefore some move of encouraging private smart cities simultaneously, because anyway the government doesn't have that much money and we need far more. In last 30 years we haven't created any single city more than 1 million, and China has created nearly 30. So I think we need to provide that kind of development in the urban.
Again, it boils down to the fact whether we will be willing to pay or not. Mrs. Roy, what do you think? Indians are extremely price sensitive. We know we don't want to pay for anything. You know, even when it comes down to, we don't want to pay our taxes. We don't want to paying for user facilities. Do you think Indians, that behavioral change can be brought in, that I actually want to pay for clean water and not think of it? Actually, it is my right, isn't it?
Well, it's a gradual process. It will not happen in one day. So once the citizens realize the benefits of the smartness of a city, once they see that they are getting the services as per their expectations, once they are able to live freely in a city, feel safe, if the city becomes user friendly, once the tourist lands in a city, if the tourist is able to get all the information regarding a city, it makes it so much better for people to live. I think then by themselves they will be, I think, willing to pay a little higher for the services that they will get. But then it cannot happen immediately. You will have to provide the services first,
Exactly.
and then then the citizens will themselves realize it and pay for the services.
So show me the product first.
Exactly.
I have a slightly different take on this.
I also do.
Which is that people are willing to pay for private solutions to poor public service delivery. It's just that they regard public service as an entitlement. So you're willing to invest in an underground water tank, a pump to convert an intermittent water supply into a 24/7 water for you. But you are not willing to pay the right price so that the public system can deliver the water to you. I think this is where apathy comes from, because you've given up on the public service delivery system and you find your private solutions. We have to break that and get people to realize that ultimately private solutions can't be found for every public service delivery failure, like we are seeing in Delhi with the poor quality of air. You can't stop walking out of your home because you have to breathe the same polluted air. So I think it will come, but people are willing to pay privately but not for public services.
So we have to stop living in little private cocoons of our own and start living in a city and truly become a citizen, is what you're really saying. Thank you so much for joining in this debate and bringing out these aspects of funding and also about how a citizen needs to behave. Thank you so much. But to realize the goal of 100 smart cities, India will have to take a giant stride in the field of infrastructure development and holistic growth. And for that, active participation of all the stakeholders, be it the government agencies, private players or the citizens, is a must. We end this debate with the hope that we will soon see India embarking on the path of urban transformation that will turn the smart city dream into a reality. It's time for us to say goodbye now. Thanks for watching the Realty Debate.